Good day, everyone. Welcome to Global Government News. Today is November 5th, 2010, and I'm Darko. New listeners, I advise you and ask you, please, to visit my website, www.ggnonline.com, ggnonline.com. I post all the most recent videos there, along with some other information about who I am and what I'm doing. As far as these videos, these little news commentary videos, that's exactly what they are. They're news commentary. I would hope that my viewers would go to the links that are posted in the description below and check them out, because I put about 20 links on average down there, and that's really the purpose of these videos, is just to kind of read the headlines, give my take on it, and then post all those links. So it's a sharing of information. And so hopefully, it'll get to you. And this video, I'm going to cover eugenics because, eugenics never stops. It's a war on the human, and there's just too many of us, and we're too much of a threat to the powers that be. So they have to use environmentalism, and that's what they came up with in the Club of Rome and various councils and corporations and NGOs, non-governmental organizations. That's what they've come up with, that in order to get the majority of people on this planet to allow themselves to be called off or killed off, they had to come up with some kind of problem, reaction, solution. And the problem is, of course, climate change, right? And CO2 emissions and how we have to regulate those, and water scarcity, and this crisis and that crisis. And there's always these crises. But they've pretty much come up with the solution, which is to, like I said, declare war on the human, to blame the human for everything, all these crises, so that it literally becomes something that's not even natural at all. It's totally man-made. And in fact, it is man-made, and it is a global conspiracy, if you want to put it that way. And part of that conspiracy involves less people, less of us. So without further ado, let's go to the Washington Post here. This one's from November 3rd, and it's titled "Experts," that's our parents, those are our masters, the scientific dictators, did UN troops infect Haiti? It says, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, researchers should determine whether United Nations peacekeepers were the source of a deadly outbreak of cholera in Haiti. Two public health experts, including a UN official, said Wednesday, says the U.S. CDC found that the strain of cholera that has killed at least 442 people in the past 3 weeks matches strains found in South Asia. The CDC, World Health Organization, I call them the World Death Organization, and the United Nations, or United Nations, those that bow down to global government and world government and give up their sovereignty, says it's not possible to pinpoint the source, and investigating further would distract from efforts to fight the disease. So there you go, folks. I actually, when I pulled this article up, I thought it was going to be a story about just the cholera epidemic in Haiti, and I didn't even know it was going to be about UN troops infecting them. But that just builds my case even more as far as the whole Haiti earthquake being caused by HAART technology, just using the electromagnetic field in the ionosphere to buzz tectonic plates and cause earthquakes, or at least help bring them about, right? Because if they are going to happen, they're just kind of helping them bring them about sooner than they would have if they hadn't interfered. So it's natural disasters, I don't buy that anymore. Even Pakistan and that, and the heat in Russia. So here we go with this Haiti earthquake. I covered it and said it was a whole eugenics operation, along with other political objectives. But the first thing that they did was they came in with the telecommunication stuff, telecommunication infrastructure. That was their priority. There's even an article titled that. And then, of course, they came with the vaccines a month later. So you move to this next article here, and it says, cholera fears spark anti-clinic protest in Haiti. This is from 10/27, so this is actually before that article right there, and it says, protesters attacked a cholera treatment center as it was preparing to open in the city of St. Marc on Tuesday, highlighting the fear surrounding a disease that was almost unknown in Haiti before it began spreading through the countryside, aid workers said. So see, this is something that they keep stressing. It was almost unknown. Some of the roughly 300 students and other protesters said they fear that Doctors Without Borders Spain clinic would bring more of the disease to their seaside town, which is one of the hardest hit in the week-old epidemic that has killed 284 people and infected 3,700, according to the United Nations figures. So they're protesting, and you can find that out in Africa too, when Bill and Melinda Gates foundations and similar organizations go to experiment and carry out research on poor, harmless people who really just want to be left alone, and so they're constantly being bombarded by eugenics, and the eugenics rifle or barrel is pointed at all of us. And it's carried out differently in each country. So in the United States, we have a little more laid back, out of sight eugenics program, whereas in Africa, everybody knows that there's eugenics being carried out on them. So they just run. So when they see, I remember listening to an individual who worked with Bill and Melinda Gates on the radio, and she was basically saying that they would pay these people, set up these white tents, bring their white vans, and eventually they started running away when they saw the white vans coming because they knew what it was. Half of those people would die, and that's what they do. They carry out the preliminary research in third world countries, and then once they get past that, then they test it out on you in quote developed countries, and they have no liability. So it's no evidence Gulf oil spill killed fish, says the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association. So it says there is no evidence the Deepwater Horizon oil spill killed any fish, according to federal and state officials overseeing the oil cleanup while captured commercial fish passed testing by multiple government agencies. And remember, these multiple government agencies, they're not meant to actually prevent or do anything like that, prevent health crises or fix a problem. They're made to basically get paid off to allow the corporations who like I said, have no liability because they're a corporation deemed by the government. This is kind of like a go-between. So as long as all these people at the top positions are paid off, then you can go ahead and pollute and kill and do whatever you want to do because they're not going to really do anything. They're just going to give you a white rubber stamp or whatever you want to call it. So that's what they're there for. And if they don't get paid off, well, then they do a shakedown. And that's why you'll see these shakedowns. Oh, Bank of America has to pay $200 billion. Well, what about the trillions that they got from, taxpayers? So anyways, but even with plenty of fish in the sea, the fishing industry in the Gulf of Mexico is still suffering from a big perception problem. We've got to keep moving on here. It says deep sea corals in Gulf of Mexico oil spill zone appear healthy. This is from the AP, just 20 miles north of where BP's blown out well spewed millions of gallons of oil in the sea, which to some people is actually, they're a little skeptical of that. Some think that it's actually mud and lava and stuff from underneath the ground, and that it's a Corexit that's really killing a lot of the sea life and harming, various other organisms, species. It says life appears bountiful despite initial fears that crude could have wiped out many of these delicate deep water habitats. So moving on here from Natural News, Gulf still loaded with chemicals, but FDA says seafood is safe to eat. See, that's what I said, because that's their job. Said not even 6 months after the first reports about a massive BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico made headlines, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration joined together with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to announce that virtually all Gulf seafood is now safe to eat. Independent tests, however, continue to show that Gulf waters are still highly contaminated and that many sea creatures are still dying from exposure to both oil and toxic oil dispersant chemicals. So, the federal agencies tested for only one chemical component while ignoring all the others. So go in there and check out those links. I remember covering an article that was talking about, the fish kill. I guess it's a normal thing down in the South and the Gulf and that, where a bunch of dead fish flow down the rivers and the inlets and that, and it's normal. But that whales and other big, animals and fish and mammals or whatever, they're not normally included in that normal fish kill, the annual fish kill. So there's a lot more going on down there than we're being told. But it says ADHD misdiagnosed in nearly 1 million U.S. kids, says researchers. And why do they do that? Well, because they want to get them on drugs, and the prescription drugs, to make them nice and placid and docile and obedient little slaves as they're being brainwashed and having all that propaganda shoved down their throats, right? Their first instinct is to fight it. Run away. 2 studies published recently suggest that there could be something wrong with the way ADHD is diagnosed in young children in the U.S. One found that nearly 1 million kids are potentially misdiagnosed just because they are the youngest in their kindergarten year, with the youngest in class twice as likely to be on a stimulant medication, while the other study confirmed that whether children were born just before or just after the kindergarten cutoff date significantly affected their chances of being diagnosed with ADHD. I got to keep moving on here, folks, because I have some very good news, not very good or positive news, but just news that I think you should be aware of. Autistic teenager, 18, given wire cage by counsel to play in. A teenager with severe autism was given a cage resembling a dog run to play in. No, this isn't something about Mary, where Bongo was running in the cage. It says the 18-year-old boy's parents said they had been promised a specialized play area by the council, but were horrified when they saw the wire pen instead. And just think about this, folks. You know, it's down the road. Eventually, these people are going to be sterilized and euthanized. So it's a very sad story and a very sad future and a sad world that we live in. But if we don't talk about it and we don't acknowledge it, well, then we'll never really know, and we'll be naive, and we'll just make these, half-assed decisions about life and what we're going to do because we're not informed, because we didn't want to be informed. So I salute all of you that, are bearing with this news and listen to it and check it out and research it on your own, because you are more informed than your fellow slave. Canada declares BPA toxic. Why isn't the U.S. following suit? It says Bisphenol A, BPA, is used as an enormous number of products. It is in nearly everyone's bloodstream, and now Canada has declared BPA a toxic substance, both to environment and to public health. I got to keep moving here. Obesity rates will reach 42%, says study. Americans will keep growing fatter until 42% of the nation is considered obese, and having fat friends is part of the problem, researchers said on Thursday. So there you go. If you're a skinny person, you better get rid of all your fat people, fat friends, and outcast them, as if they don't have it bad enough, as they eat all those GMO food, which makes it even harder to lose. It says out of control obesity has led to size, quadruple X. Obesity rates have reached epic proportions, literally, as the new British retailer unveils its largest clothing size ever, the quadruple X size, according to the recent report in New York. High and Mighty, a UK big and tall store for men, recently plopped the quadruple X clothing on its store shelves with expanded shirts, men that have 64-inch chest, and widened pants for men that have 60-inch waist. This is an older article, but thought I'd throw it up there. CDC, diabetes in the U.S. could triple by 2050. And folks, this is the food that you're eating, and all these poor people that eat all this fast food and this bad quality food, that's why they're fat. It's not, people want to say, oh, they're lazy and all this. And, well, half of it is because of the food that they're eating is such low quality that they can't even burn it off. It has no nutritional value whatsoever. And that's the eugenics. It's financial warfare. They take away your standard of living through currency manipulation, taxation, everything, right? Pure corporatism, fascism. And then they carry out the eugenics. Because when you're sitting there, you're retired, or you have no job, you're a useless eater. But unfortunately, most of the eugenics is pointed at the young people. Next one up is vaccination rates fall among better educated families, even while CDC keeps pushing vaccine quackery. Vaccination rates among children insured by commercial health insurance plans have dropped 4% between 2008 and 2009, says a report by the National Committee for Quality Assurance. Says the organization revealed that vaccine rates are falling sharply among high education families. And that's why doctors admit, a lot of them will admit, they don't even vaccinate themselves or their children. It says, because they have good immune systems. Women, says here, women treated for cancer with radiation suffer a higher risk of future stillbirths. Also, they suffer breast cancer, a risk of breast cancer. Women who were treated for cancer with radiation as children are significantly more likely to suffer from stillbirth or have an infant die shortly after birth, according to a study conducted by researchers from Vanderbilt University. Lastly is a letter directed toward John P. Holdren, eugenicist, president for science and technology from the University of California, San Francisco, from about 4 or more medical doctors. And they're writing to call the attention to the concerns about potential serious health risks of recently adopted whole-body back scanner, X-ray airport security scanners. I'll post the link. Check this out, and thank you everyone, and have a great weekend.